Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. We have a really important conversation today about Google. We do it every day, we're involved with it constantly, and we happen to have one of only 14 experts in the world who knows all about Google My Business. And this is something that you need to be aware of if you're doing any work on the web. You almost certainly have it underperforming for your business. And so let's get up to speed with this expert. It turns out 3 of the 14 experts are with Ben's company. Ben Fischer is with us today. 3 of the 14 identified experts in Google are in his firm. And he's going to tell us a little bit more about steady demand as well. But he's got a presentation today that is rapid fire, like 1 minute per slide, kind of lots of information. So sit back in your chair, have your cup of coffee or tea ready, and Ben is going to take you on a journey of knowledge and his experience and to be able to help improve your business online. Ben, really appreciate you taking the time today. And we're looking forward to learning a lot. I understand that we'll have probably 35 or so minutes of content, and then there'll be time for questions. I encourage everyone, if you have a question, you feel free to type it in the Q&A area or in the chat area. Introduce yourself in the chat area as well, and along the way, and then we'll have roughly 20 minutes or so at the end for questions. So Ben, thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to learning more.
Hey, Doug, thanks so much for having me. And hi, everybody. Welcome from around the world. So I'm here to answer any kind of questions that you have about Google Maps, local SEO, or Google My Business. Today's presentation is going to be all about Google My Business. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to create, optimize, and engage with Google My Business. And with that, I'm just going to start sharing my screen. So give me a moment. All right. All right, so we're going to start out here. So Google My Business, just really, I want to talk about the basics very quickly. What is Google My Business? Google My Business is a free tool that's given to you by Google that allows your business to basically display on Google Maps. So whenever somebody is, oh, I'm sorry, I just need to check out one thing here. All right. Well, okay. So yeah, when somebody looking for something on Maps, even on desktop, they're going to run into Google My Business if the query has what's called local search intent. So just a little bit about me. Doug gave you thank you for the nice introduction. Like obviously Doug was saying, is I am what's called a Google My Business Platinum Product Expert. There are about 14 of us as far as what's called this platinum level, basically, in the world. And it's an invite-only group that basically from Google My Business, where we work together with the product teams, as well as all of the other people who are kind of developing features. We also kind of act as an early warning system where we let GMB know if there's any kind of problems. As well, and we help improve the product. An example of this is like when COVID struck last year, we huddled up with Google My Business immediately. And so all of those little things that you see on maps these days that tell you about like curbside pickup, whether the mask is required or not, all of these little things are something that us, like the product experts, basically influenced and asked Google My Business to implement. I'm the founder of Steady Demand. Steady Demand, we are you got it, local SEO and Google My Business company. We do everything from protecting Google My Business listings, helping businesses expand their footprint by opening new listings within Google My Business guidelines. We also do GMB guidelines compliance, which is very important when you have a multi-location business, or if you have what's considered a fringe business model. And we also do a lot of work with like getting rid of fake listings on Google Maps, as well as reinstating businesses which have been suspended. And if you've ever gone through that, you know what I'm talking about. I'm a contributor for a lot of different locations. Bright Local Marketing Institute, we have a weekly webinar that we do there, and write for a lot of different places and do a lot of things like this, webinars. All right, with that, Yeah, with that, we're going to talk about how you can create or claim a Google My Business listing. All right, so, oops, hold on a second. My deck is going crazy here. I apologize. I'm going to have to start over. Sorry about that, everybody.
No worries.
Don't know what happened there, but let me see. There we go. All right. Unfortunately, I started it the wrong way. So, hey, you gotta love this stuff sometimes, right? Okay. All right. So, sorry. Apologize. My deck is going crazy. All right. Now we're ready. Apologize, everybody. Okay. So, moving on from that. Yeah. So, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to go to business.google.com. This is the screen that you're going to get presented with if you're not logged into an account which already has Google My Business profiles in it. So you'll just click on sign in or manage now, and that'll bring you into your desktop, into your dashboard, basically. Just a little quick stat, by the way, about one of the reasons why Google My Business is so important. Did you know that 50% of consumers conduct a local search? They will visit a business within a day, a store. And about 56% of local retailers have actually claimed their free Google My Business account. What that basically means is that there is a whopping 64%, 44% of people who have not claimed a Google My Business listing. That's an astounding number. That's a lot of missed opportunity is what that is. And that's a lot of people that are giving away a lot of business to their competitors. So, okay, so moving on as to how do we get started here. So once you're inside of Google My Business, you can do what's called add a location. And when you're adding a location, we're just going to start here where you basically will start by typing in your business name. So this is going to be Ben's Great Profile. Next, you're going to go ahead and then you're going to select a category. Now here, you just want to go ahead and choose the category which is best suited to your business. This is also going to be a main driver of traffic to your business. So you do want to choose carefully. Choose the closest match. You might not find an exact match to your category, but you'll be able to add more categories later. So just choose what you think is the best. In the next step, this is a really important question. Do you want to add a location that customers can visit, like a store or an office? There used to be a lot of problems where people would, like, for instance, set up a listing at their home and they would go ahead and show their address. Well, this is a violation of Google's guidelines, gets you suspended, can get you in even more trouble if you're doing a lot of locations. So here we kind of clarified this question to be very transparent. So you would select yes if you want your address to show, and you would select no if you don't want your address to show. A good reason why you don't want to, another reason why you wouldn't want the address to show, let's say you're a plumber. If your business is doing plumbing, then more than likely you go out and you go visit customers. They don't come to you. So I guess I could wrap this all up by saying that it's based on your business model. There's a third type, which is called a hybrid. And that is like, for instance, a Pizza Hut. A Pizza Hut, you can go into a Pizza Hut or they can deliver to you. So that would be considered more of a hybrid. All right. So here, you're just going to go ahead, you'll enter in the address. And then this question here kind of is talking a little bit more about the hybrid. So with the hybrid model, you would just go ahead and say, do you serve customers outside this location? Yes, I serve them outside my location. That means you go to them. And whether you have an address or whether you don't. Next thing is you're going to go ahead and enter in your phone number, your website URL. And here you can also choose to get the free website by Google My Business. I personally don't recommend it unless you really need to. And we're going to go over a little bit later kind of how you can get this and optimize it just a little bit. But here you should probably put in your own website. Pro tip, if you have multiple locations, definitely use local landing pages. Those are usually perform so much better in search versus always just pointing it at your homepage of your website. And this applies for anybody who has like actually 2 or more locations, by the way. All right, next thing you're going to do is then you're going to go ahead and you're going to verify. Now, this applies, by the way, whether you are, say, your listing is at your home address or whether it's at a brick and mortar. You're still going to need to put in an address one way or another, even though it's going to be, if it's a service area business, it's hidden from search. So anyway, so here at this point, sometimes you'll be given the option to get an email with a code or a text or a phone call, and then you'll get a code. It's very rare. It's maybe in 10% of cases. Most of the time, it's going to ask to do a postcard, and the postcard's going to be sent to you within usually 5 to 7 business days. If you don't get the postcard, you can go back into Google My Business and you can request another one. Or my preferred method is to just reach out to support and ask them to do what's called a video verification. That way they'll set up an appointment with you. They'll call you, basically call you in a sense, video call, and go ahead and go through the verification steps, have you show the area, working areas, things like that. And then you'll get verified. So that's what I would give you as far as tip on that. And once you have gone ahead and completed these steps, at this point, this is what you're going to see inside of your dashboard. As you can see, it's saying verification needed because I didn't go through the last step. But this is what your dashboard now will look like for this listing. So the next step is we're going to talk about claiming a business. The previous process we just went through was all about making a new Google My Business entry. This situation is kind of like where somebody has gone ahead and say added a business to the map, and the merchant, the business owner, does not actually have control of this. It's just kind of hanging out there on the internet. Why is this step important if you have one claim out there? Number one, if you're going to create a new one and there's one out there, it might be what's called the duplicate that you just need to get rid of. Another thing is let's say you have a business and you do not even, somebody's just told you that you have a Google My Business entry. We were talking about this in the green room. At that point, you want to go and search for your business name, and you're going to follow the steps that we're about to go over. Another reason for doing this, by the way, is that there's people that can go ahead and hijack your listing. So put their information in there. That happens with restaurants a lot. They could also just go ahead and edit and change the phone number. That's kind of like a hijack, but not really. They could also try and claim it into their dashboard, especially if they have resources or ways of doing social engineering and getting a PIN code from you or one of your employees. And then there you go. Now they have complete control over the listing. The other thing is when you don't have a claimed business, you can't do all the cool stuff that's in Google My Business. And more importantly, you can't respond to reviews. Very important aspect right there. All right. So the first question is, can you even claim a business? If you see on Google Maps where it says claim this business, then it means that it can be claimed by anybody in a sense, right? They can start the process at least. If this does not exist, then it cannot be claimed. If it's on desktop, it'll show own this business, by the way. Once you click this, it'll come to a screen like this. It'll either say, well, actually, there'll be another screen that could be there too. If it shows this, and then it shows your email and your icon in the middle, this means it absolutely is not claimed. You can go ahead and start the process. If it does come up and say that, for instance, XYZ owns this listing, that means somebody does own the listing, indeed owns the listing. And at that point, you can go ahead and request management or ownership access of the listing as well. All right. So let's get into how to optimize. So when we're optimizing, the thing is I've gone ahead and jot these arrows. These are the locations which you are going to go to basically as soon as you've brought something into your control panel. Now the info tab has pretty much, it's already complete. And I do recommend you don't touch the info tab until after you've gone through the verification process, because if you touch your address or your category or your phone number or your website, it'll invalidate the PIN code that you're about to get. But you can go into photos, you can turn on messages, you can do product service, you can even build a little website all during this phase. After you've verified, this is places you're going to be coming back to. You'll be coming back to the home screen because this is where important information is, and you can see on a regular basis. Also, invites to betas and things like that occur here. You can go to Google My Business posts and do those. Reviews, that's where you can respond to reviews. Messages, you definitely want messages. Great conversion points, and you can activate it here. And then there's photos, and I encourage you to upload photos on a regular basis. All right. So one of the things when you're going through all of this is I want to make sure that you understand that this is totally not allowed. What you're seeing here on the left and what you're seeing here on the right is where a business, in this case, Trees by Mike, has gone ahead and added all of these keywords to their business name. This actually might be an unclaimed listing, but they've gone ahead and added all of these words to their business name, and this is not allowed in the Google My Business guidelines, and can get a listing suspended very quickly. So the rule of thumb here is name your business as it is in the real world. Very important. Don't just add keywords because you see a bunch of people adding keywords. Then choosing your categories. Choosing your categories is one of the most important things that you can do when you're doing optimization. Here, what I recommend is I recommend grabbing a Chrome extension called GMB Spy. GMB Spy, when you visit a Google My Business listing, once you click the button, it's going to show you all of the categories that your competitors are using. So it's a really great idea to go through, take a look through the top, say, 10 of your competitors, and then go ahead and pick categories that they're using. Why? Because now you're going to start ranking. The thing is that if, for instance, if you put down, let's say for Rosati's Pizza here, if the only thing that they put down was pizza restaurant, they would never get catering jobs. They would not be found for things other than pizza. They would not be found for other Italian dishes. They would definitely be found for takeout and delivery. Excuse me. All right. The next thing is that you want to be able to track any kind of activity which is coming from Google My Business to your website. And if you go to this URL, or if you just type in Google URL Builder, you'll be able to get to this campaign builder. And here you're going to be able to tag things. As long as you're using Google Analytics, you're going to know exactly how many people converted from Google My Business that clicked on your website. All right. I'm going to talk very briefly about this. Inside of Google My Business, you can do a primary and additional phone number up to 3. So here, if you're using a tracking number, which I highly recommend that you do, then you can go ahead, you can put the tracking number as your primary number, and then you put your secondary phone number as your actual landline. The reason that you want to do this is you want to continually tell Google what the right data is. And if they go to your website and they find a different piece of data, at that point, things start to become suspect. So definitely make sure name, address, and phone number are always consistent on your website and in other directories if you can. Short name and description. I'm not going to dwell on this too long. I will just say that, if you can set this now, I would definitely do it. But a short name basically is kind of like a vanity URL for Google My Business. And if you set it, then you can basically set it, and somebody can go to g.page/review. I'm sorry, your short name /review, and then they will be able to go ahead and leave a review. All right. Important thing here. Now, posts. Posts are going to be very central to what we're talking about. So with a Google My Business post, think of them as things that can be used to tell consumers more about things that you're offering. In this case, we're talking about products. By the way, products can also be services. For instance, we have a lot of lawyers who will put like their different practice areas. into products. And the reason is because if you look at it, look how high it is up on the knowledge panel. It's right underneath of all of your contact information. So this is a really great area to be in, to have your information. And I would absolutely leverage this and try to make a theme out of it, actually, if you can. But as you can see with the product post, you get to give it a name, a category, a description, maybe a price range if you want to. And also, of course, there can be a call to action for people to call, visit your website, or go ahead and buy something. The next thing that you'll do is go ahead and go in and add services. So services mainly show up on mobile. They also kind of show up on desktop under what's called it's called a justification, which basically is a little featured snippet that shows up underneath of your Google My Business profile when somebody's doing a search. The cool thing is that if you have your services set up correctly, then people are going to start to see that you offer all sorts of things. And so when they're looking at you versus a competitor, if you have services and your competitor doesn't, guess who they're going to probably call? The next thing is attributes. So these are very important as well. They are searchable in Google search as too. And you just go into Google My Business, and in here, you're just going to select what is an attribute that is appropriate for your business. A little bit of a pro tip here is when you're doing these, you can click these little icons, these chips 3 times. The first time you see it, it's going to have just this plus. This just means I want to add it. If you click it once, it'll have a checkbox, which means that it's going to show this attribute as it is true. So in other words, it would be, you would see on your Google My Business profile, appointment required, if that's what you checked. If you click it again, it's going to come up with a circle strike through, and it's going to be more gray in color. That means that it will show on Google, no appointment required. Very important there, by the way. So a lot of people think if you have the no, then it's just not going to show. It's in this state with the plus. That's when it won't actually show. Next thing is you just want to make sure that you are adding photos on a very regular basis. Some little pieces of information here is like your profile photo. That needs to be a 250 by 250 pixels. The cover photo, which is what everybody really sees, that's 1080 by 608. So it's pretty decent size. The little thing about the cover photo is you can never control it 100%. So if you don't like the photo that's showing up there, you can delete it, and hopefully the one that you want to will show. And just a little thing here, might as well talk about it. Post images, those are 1200 by 900 pixels. And actually at studydemand.com, we do have a cool guide that shows you how to make your images look perfect on any service. Okay. And images, I suggest doing 2 a week, actually. Also, okay, next thing is you want to make sure that you do add an opening date. So a lot of people, when this first rolled out, didn't pay attention to this. And then about 3 months ago, Google started showing people as open, if they did not put in an opening date, would show them basically as only being open for less than 5 years. Well, imagine if you've been open for 20 years, and that's what people are seeing. So I would highly recommend putting in at least the year and the day and the month. Next thing is basically what's called questions and answers. So the questions and answers can be made by yourself. There's currently a bug now that's making this not work, but I'll still go over it. And so if you visit your business on the web, you'll see ask a question. And so you can go ahead and ask a question and then also give the answer. This is very useful because now you can start giving people frequently asked questions before they've even contacted your business. It's just another way, it's another qualifier. The other cool thing is that other people can go ahead and leave questions and answers too, okay? And so with that, those, read those questions on at least once a month, because those can actually be nice leads actually for you. So if somebody's asking a question, definitely go in and answer it. They will see the response, and then maybe they will contact you. GB posts. Told you we were going to be talking a lot about these. So Google My Business posts, they are a great way to see conversions from Google My Business. I just want to talk really quickly about the type of Google My Business posts. And then the ones in the background, let's just kind of show you an example of it on mobile and desktop. Yeah, and maps. So as you can see, they kind of all look the same. Before I get into the type of post, I want to talk about formatting. The first 80 characters of your posts are the most important. In this example, it's not done correctly because as you can see, it gets cut off at the last word. So you're getting a W with a dot, dot, dot. But if you do 80 characters, then it's going to look perfect as far as a leading headline along across all of the different surfaces. Next, we're going to talk about is the types of posts. So there really is only one type of post that I personally like. Well, maybe two: updates and products. I'm going to go over the reasons why I don't like the others. So the COVID-19 post, the reason why I don't like this, even though it was kind of cool over a year ago, right? It was a great thing to have. Now it's what ends up happening is if you do a COVID-19 post, it will cover up all of the posts that you have done, except the product posts. So doing a COVID-19 post is kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. I would just use an add update or a what's new post instead to convey anything about COVID or fill out those attributes. The offer post and the event post. Okay, so an offer post will actually give a coupon code that you specify. And you can also set a time limit on it as well and give it a description and a title. However, it's going to reduce your 3 lines that you have with a update post into 1 line because it's got a date in it. So therefore, basically, it makes it less likely to use it simply because we don't have enough space, basically. And the same thing with an event post. It's going to only have 1 line. So you're going to have your title, you're going to have your date, your length, and then you're going to have the description. So again, also not very useful. I would not use those, but play around with it. See what you like. Experiment. And now we're just going to go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about engagement. So from an engaging standpoint, I want to make sure that you are absolutely requesting reviews. Gathering your reviews is so important. It is a ranking factor. And it's also an excellent way to get really good intelligence on your business. Some of the things is that some statistically, so about 95%, I'm sorry, yeah, about 90% of people will look at reviews that have been left in the last 2 weeks. 80% of people will read the review, the response left by the merchant as well. So if you're not consistently getting reviews and responding to those reviews, again, you're really giving business to somebody else. So they're the greatest source of information about how your company is doing, as well as, remember, those reviews, they're not for you. They're actually for somebody who's going to be coming and looking at you and for you. The next thing is that you really want to pay attention to how you respond to reviews. If we go back to that stat, which is, 80% of people are looking at your response, then you basically really need to pay attention to that because, again, you could be shooting yourself in the foot. So make sure when you do respond to a review that you're calm, you're collected, you're answering in a helpful way. And you are always, if it's a negative review, you're always understanding and showing empathy, and basically a good way that you can respond, because a lot of people don't know how to respond to negative reviews. But a good way to respond could simply be something like this. Hello, X, in this case, Google user. I'm sorry that you've had a bad experience with us. If we would love to make it right, please give us a call or email us at X, and we would be happy to fix this situation. It's calm, it's neutral. You're not really admitting to any kind of fault. And you're also offering a solution. And that's really all that's necessary at that point. If the user's real and they contact you, you might turn a 1-star into a 5-star. If they're not real, and if there's maybe an attack by a competitor or something like that, then at least you've gone ahead and given something to somebody else who's reading those reviews. The next thing is that I want to make sure that you go ahead and activate messaging. So messaging is going to allow people to request a quote from you or to send you a general message about your services. And it's going to show up on desktop, or if you have the Google My Business mobile app, it'll show up as a push notification on your phone. One important thing about messaging is that you have 24 hours to reply to somebody. So it's a good idea to give this to somebody who can actually dedicate some time to doing a reply. And there you go. That's about it. So that's my presentation. If you follow these instructions, you should have the before is how you were ranking and after how you were ranking. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that is the basics. And if you need to reach at me, you can go ahead, email me at ben@steadydemand.com, give me a call, book an appointment. Either way, thank you so much, and we will go ahead and open it up.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Could you take one step back and just kind of explain like what and maybe would be maybe either on your screen or you can articulate it. When I see, for instance, I Google Global Chamber, I see a box to the right that looks like what you describe in terms of content. When I Google Steady Demand, I don't see that. And so I don't know if that relates to I'm not in the area. But tell us more about what actually physically happens online when this is done.
Yeah, so basically, so good point. So the reason that you don't see steady demand on the right-hand side is because we are more considered a generic term that has a lot of global intent, okay? And so if you type in steady demand, beyond the stuff that you see about our company, you'll also see things about oil and oil prices, actually. So Google has not been able to separate the two as far as steady demand, the company, or steady demand oil. So Google Trends, I'll bet you, would show that there's probably a lot more searches for steady demand about oil. So that's why. Whereas Global Chamber, since you're local to Global Chamber, that's why it's coming up for you. More than likely, if you did it in a different state, you would find something completely different. You wouldn't be able to see it. That's more than likely. And if you were in Texas, then you would absolutely see steady demand. So that's kind of the reason behind that.
So you mean they would show up as an oil industry issue, or what do you mean?
No, if you were in Texas and you typed in steady demand, and specifically if you were in Austin, then you definitely would get our Google My Business profile.
I see, because your headquarters is there.
Exactly. So if somebody wants to actually find us, they have to type in steady demand Texas.
I see. Okay, so maybe then explain also then the first part of that question was, I think you answered as well, and that is what actually happens physically is when someone searches for your business. Because you've put this together, now this additional information shows up on the right in a Google search. And
exactly.
It sounds like in addition to providing them information, what other attributes is it doing? Like that last slide that you showed where it was more green kind of around the area. What does that really mean? Is it that, I guess I'm not really quite sure. Is it that in those areas, that box shows up?
Exactly. So the thing I was trying to illustrate there at the end was very simple, is that when you go ahead and you either create or claim a Google My Business profile, right? So it's currently, when you create it, it doesn't have anything. When you claim it, it doesn't have usually anything either as far as information anywhere in the Google My Business profile. So therefore, basically, there's not a lot of relevancy to the GMB profile, and it's not going to show up in search, which is why you get all those little reds and yellows, right? Because it's just not showing up. So after you go ahead and you optimize and you start doing engagement with your Google My Business profile, then it starts showing up all over the place. And that grid that I was showing, basically, that's a grid that's separated by about a mile, each one of those points. And that's a 7x7 grid. So 7 miles by 7 miles. And, when you're starting out, you might only rank where your location actually is. But then as you continue to do these types of activities, then you're going to start growing that map basically of where somebody's going to be able to find you and where you'll be in like the top 3 positions, for instance, when
Okay.
somebody's doing a search. And that's important to know, right? That you can only, there is only 3. On mobile, there's only 2 spots that are the top spots. So, and those top spots are the people who get the most calls.
Got it. Great. I want to mention before we get any further, Gloria Peterson, a member of Global Chamber in Global Chamber Phoenix chapter, who has been instrumental in pulling together a series of marketing programs. The first one was recently we did with Amanda Davis on LinkedIn and how to use LinkedIn. I think we're already planning a second one. It was we spilled over into the second hour. There was so much interest regarding how to improve. Today's program is also something that's come out of that leadership by you, Gloria. So thank you for putting this idea together and then being able to share this information today. You had alluded that you use Google My Business for your own business. And so thank you for learning about that and also sharing the basic idea. Regarding then a business that is more like yours, Ben, where it's people around the U.S. as an example are your priority, but you're based out of Austin. So having a Google My Business it certainly helps you in Austin. Does it help you in New York, or where else does it help you relative to getting found?
It's a great question. So from relative to getting found, it does not. So and we do business internationally, right? Any English speaking country. So, so we're not going to be found, in the UK. We're not going to be found in Australia. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So what we use Google My Business for in that case is we use it kind of like a digital business card, really is what it comes down to. So it's in all of our collateral. If people want to see our reviews, we point them right at Google My Business. It's a little bit counterintuitive because it is something that's owned by Google, not by us, right? Why would we want to send people there? Well, because people trust it. That's why. And so they can go, they can read the reviews, they can read the questions and answers, they can look at the posts, they can look at photos if they want to. Don't know why they would want to with us, but they could. And then then can make a decision basically at that point if they want to reach out to us or not. I do this a lot. And when we do, for instance, like reinstatements of listings that have been suspended, one of the things that I tell everybody at the end of a phone call is, hey, look, here's a link to our Google My Business profile. Go read our reviews if you're feeling, upset, angry, sad, etc. And because, somebody's no longer on Google Maps and they need to get on desperately. So send them the reviews to make them feel better. And yeah, that's about it as far as that goes.
Okay. Very good. I somehow messed up my my system here. I guess I think I can still Google, right? Yeah, here we go. So that's helpful. When you were mentioning about pointing people to the map, is there a way then there must be to be able to send that as a link to people? I didn't see that immediately.
Yeah, so basically, if you go ahead and you have set up that short name that I was talking about,
okay.
Then somebody can go, if you give them the short name minus the word review at the end, then they'll bring them directly to their Google My Business profile. So for us, for instance, it's g.page/local SEO. And if you go to that, it's going to go straight to it.
Okay. So it's not like a link that you click on the image itself of the Google My Business image of your business. It's inside and you get the link there.
Exactly.
I gotcha.
So once you set it, you got it.
Got it.
By the way, somebody asked a question about hashtags. You're speaking about social media earlier, and I would not use hashtags in Google My Business posts. GMB posts are not meant to really be social media. There is no kind of social component to Google My Business. You can follow a business, but that's about it. They can't follow you. So basically I would stay away from hashtags. They don't do anything for you. They're not going to help you from a search standpoint. There is no discoverability at all when it comes to hashtags.
Okay. But you mentioned about keywords and key terms, certainly not to put it in the title, but what about within the content of the description?
Yeah. Also, it's another thing is that, putting keywords and stuffing keywords into your posts is not going to help with ranking. As a matter of fact, if you'd like, I'll just go ahead and tell us, basically, I'll say what's going to impact ranking. How's that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So from that standpoint, the only things that are going to help you from a ranking perspective are if you have keywords in your business name. By the way, you can put keywords in your business name if you do it within the guidelines. We actually have a specific service just for that. So there's keywords in the name, the categories, like we were going over, looking at something like GMB Spy, which is going to help you choose those categories. That is extremely important. I can't stress how important that is. So make sure you've got your categories right. If you're a seasonal business, you can change your categories as well. HVAC, we do this all the time for our clients. Air conditioning in the summer, heating in the winter, and we always change the primary category. The reviews that you're getting up to a certain point will help you with ranking. And then lastly is the website URL that you're actually pointing at. So if you're pointing at a landing page, for instance, that's ranking well in Google search, that can help you from a ranking standpoint too. Everything else is not going to help you from a ranking standpoint. So descriptions, products, services, all of these things, posts, they are more conversion oriented and engagement oriented versus SEO oriented.
Got it. Okay, that's very helpful. There was a little bit more of there were a couple more questions, and then I've got a few as well. So keep asking your questions. This is clearly a very important topic. This is one from one of our members. Could you offer some tips for those of us that are authors and speakers who are hired for our works and engagement? How can we best use Google My Business?
Okay, good question. So authors and speakers, it really depends on how your business model, right? So as an author and a speaker, you might be speaking globally, but you might not be speaking locally. If you're not speaking locally, technically you should not have a Google My Business entry, simply because you're not doing anything local. Your business is all out of state or it's virtual, right? So now the real question is, can you set one up? And the answer is going to be yes, you could set one up. But the only reason that you would want to do that really is not for discovery. It's not for new business. It's going to be kind of like we said with the whole business card concept. More than anything else, it's just going to be a place where somebody can leave a review for you, or if they search for you directly by your name, or your business. Well, yeah, as a speaker and an author, it's usually by name. So, and then somebody will be able to go ahead and find you and look at your business card that way.
Got it. Okay, that's very helpful. Another question, and I'm not sure, and I replied back, Lothar, about what the problem is, but I've found this with one of our chapters. It's impossible to change the address, and I just kind of gave up on it. This is an address question as well, and maybe it's because the postcard is not getting there. It sounds like his mailing address is one thing, but it comes back at a different address, and there's some conflict there. I presume he's not getting the postcard. I think you answered that earlier, though, right? If you don't get the postcard, you can actually call in and make the adjustment.
Yeah, you can go through Google My Business Help and basically get them to do video verification. In this case, however, there is a potential solution. It depends on what the problem is, right? Because if the problem is like my map marker is off and I'm getting the wrong directions, which is possible, that can actually be fixed. And you would have to go to here, let me just type it in the chat to everybody. You'd have to go to maps support. Hold on a second. Yeah, you'd have to go to map support and show them basically the basic diagram out using screenshots, the problem, showing that there's only a few blocks to that road and that the post office is showing South Illini Road, which you can show just by Googling it basically and showing that it's like, I'm looking for Illini Road and it's coming up as South. And so that would be a maps fix basically.
Okay. Very, very, very helpful. Lothar, let us know if that solves the issue or if there's another angle on that. It sounds like, Ben, that you started out by saying number one issue regarding this is people don't use it. They're not using it. I know in our case, we don't use it because we can't figure out how to break through all the different layers of authentication and postcards and all of that and logins. There, who knows, like the Global Chamber login, we don't even know what that is. And I was actually earlier trying to get in, and I know we've done it, but how do we get there? Because it's like, so those layers of complexity for maybe because of a non-marketing genius like you, that's part of the problem, and I just need to hand it over to a marketing person. So number one issue is use it, and then user error, I presume, that why people don't use it. But number 2 and 3 and 4, like, what are the more common issues and challenges that either people have with this or opportunities that we're missing out? You touched on a few of them in your talk. How would you rank them in terms of most important to consider?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that most people have verification, hands down, is number one, right? Verification is a very tricky subject. The reason it's so tricky, and I'll just go over this really quick, is that there's a lot of people who are trying to game the system. They're trying to create fake Google My Business listings. They're all over the place. They're lead generation. If you've ever called like a locksmith or garage door company or a plumber and they answer with a different name than what's on the listing, that's a lead generation listing. It's fake. It's against Google My Business terms of service. So, so that's mainly it. Is there's a lot of people who are trying to game the system. So, and that's why it can become complex. Things like what you're talking about, where it's like hard to track down the user, for instance, that is the owner of the listing itself. That also is another problem that people have. The good thing is that GMB has put in a lot of little mechanisms in place to fix these issues. It used to be really horrible about 3 years ago, by the way.
It's gotten better.
Awesome. Oh yeah. When I got started doing this, it's about 6 years ago with the GMB community. That's where I started, was verification, actually, because there were so many problems with verification. And so luckily over the years and through input, etc., those things have all been fixed, kind of. So don't worry about it. We will get you all sorted out there, Doug. And you'll be surprised at how easy it is. No, but seriously, so yeah, you've got that number one, right? That's the big thing. The second thing is going to be compliance with the Google My Business guidelines. Most merchants do not know if they're in compliance with the Google My Business guidelines in the first place. As a matter of fact, only 4% are actually within the Google My Business guidelines. I know this because we do lots of reinstatement work for business listings that get removed from Google Maps, which is called being suspended. I think last year we did around 2,000 individual cases. And like I said, about 4% were actually prepared. The thing is that most people, and I kind of alluded to this when I was talking, is most people look at what other people are doing and saying, I can do that too. Why not? They're doing it. So they put the keywords into their business name. They go out, they get a virtual office. They go ahead, they set up the business profile at their home, and then they leave the address showing. Again, they're just copycatting. And it's okay because you don't know any better, right? Nobody's going to read the guidelines. Although I encourage you to. But it's like, when you sign up for a website, do you read the terms of service? Usually not. So that's the second thing, is going to be guidelines. And the third thing is people just don't understand what it takes to rank well. And anybody who is going after and claiming a Google My Business profile is either probably being asked to by a marketing company, or the marketing person at the company knows the kind of advantages to GMB. And but then once they get a hold of it, they don't know what to do, and they kind of just set it and forget it. Which is kind of why I had that slide on, this is where you're going to live after you claim it, is in these different areas, because you kind of want to, well, not kind of, you want to go back on a very consistent basis and update information. Look at the questions and answers, respond to reviews, add photos, do posts once a week at the very minimum. Because this is going to help you from a ranking standpoint. And then you also, of course, you want to pay attention to all of the other things that can help you rank, like your website, getting links, things like that. These are all important. Might not be GMB related, but they will help your Google My Business profile rank. Does that answer your question, Doug?
It does. Thank you. I don't want to. We're coming down to the last few minutes, and so before we end, one of the things I really wanted to make sure everybody understood was, what steady demand does, what your firm does, and then how does what we've talked about today relate, in an integrated way with other things that you do, because you're more holistic than this. You do other things, and I'd also like to understand more about, like, how in the world did you get to be one of only 14 super people around the world, and what drove you to get to this premier ranking? Because you're giving input every week, right, to Google on how to improve the system, and so you're that level of expert, and so congratulations on that. But how does that relate to on a more macro level, and how you help people every day?
Wow, that's like 3 questions in one, Doug.
I didn't want to ask that question too early. I wanted you to warm up.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. No, but oh, by the way, we do have a question about maps being in 2 blocks away.
Oh, yeah.
If the directions are wrong, you absolutely want to go to google.com/maps and leave a thread there. Try and leave feedback, though, on Google Maps first. Okay, on to your question. So basically, I started out doing this about 7 years ago. And long story, very, very, very short, is that I had a client who was a gun shop. And basically, they had been suspended and removed from Google Maps. And they were getting over 2,000 phone calls a month. So lots of business coming from GMB, 90% of their business, actually. And so they've been removed, and I contacted support. Support gave me the answer that I asked them why they were removed. And they said, well, guns kill people. I said, well, wait a minute, guns kill people. I said, well, what about cigarettes? Are you going to be getting rid of convenience stores? And they said, more than likely. And I, of course, bet that. Yeah, exactly. So
what about the Olive Garden and those breadsticks? That kills people with heart attack, right? So
yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
So liquor stores gone. So I obviously didn't agree with this, and so I went into the community for Google My Business, and I raised a little bit of a fuss, and I asked for help. And then Joy Hawkins, my mentor, actually, one of my mentors, went ahead and responded and elevated it to Google directly. And then they ended up 3 weeks later changing their policy, because they were going to actually remove gun shops in a way from Google Maps. And instead, they decided to go ahead and put them into the regulated class of industry, where they could basically be on Google Maps, they just couldn't actively manage them. So they would be in an unclaimed state. And then, so I was okay with that, right? I was like, my client's back on Maps. They can't do anything with it, but at least they're back. And so I started looking at the community and looking what people were having troubles with, verification, for instance, and all sorts of other things. And so I started basically looking around and helping people, answering the questions. 6 months later, I get an email from Google. Would you like to join our secret society? No, serious. And of course I said yes. And so, but since then, it's been a wild, fun ride. And being on the inside and really understanding how they think and how they behave, and being able to influence the product where that affects billions of people, it's just amazing. It's a lot of fun. And you're welcome, Gloria. So that's the first, how did I get here, right? And so that, yeah, anyway, so that's that answer. And I get to work together with a ton of amazing people and the other product experts that are on the team as well. I mean, every single one of them is amazing. So, and they really put their heart into it, and they basically want to make an impact on the world, which we do. We just do. It's fun, kind of like I was saying with COVID. It's like, that was necessary. There's so much confusion on Google Maps. People were showing up to Walmart, and they didn't know if they had curbside pickup or not. So, solved a lot of problems. As far as what our company does. So Steady Demand, what we do is we focus a lot on, you guessed it, Google My Business and local SEO. From a GMB standpoint, we help manage Google My Business profiles, get them ranked, basically, is one of the things that we do. Also engage, so that way they convert more. We also protect Google My Business profiles. This means that we make sure that they're in Google My Business compliance. Remember how I said only 4% of businesses are, or locations actually. So you don't want to be part of that 96% that's very vulnerable and can be removed from maps. If it hasn't happened to you already, don't worry, one day it will. And we also protect GMB profiles from malicious activity. So that's hijacking, people changing information about your Google My Business profile, or even Google changing your information about your profile. And then we also do a lot of reinstatement work, which is where people have been removed from Google Maps. And by the way, with the protection, if somebody does get suspended, we get them reinstated free, boom, done, no cost, because we know that they're in the guidelines. And yeah, but then after that, I mean, it's basically, we do help with getting rid of a lot of those fake listings that we were talking about. So, when you have listings that are lead gen in nature, or just fake or violating the guidelines in one way or another, we go ahead and we report those to Google, and we have a lot of different ways that we can take care of them. And then finally, we do SEO audits, local SEO audits on websites and Google My Business profiles, see kind of troubleshooting things to see if things can rank better, if there's any kind of problems, maybe an algorithm update messed up your rankings. And so we'll do audits, and then we can help and implement work that'll actually help people rank better too.
Great. I love your, not only your expertise, but also the fact that you view what you do as changing the world in a positive way. I wish everybody would view their work in that way, because ultimately, I mean, if it's good work and it's helping people, it is making people's lives better, directly or indirectly. So thank you for that perspective. Is there anything you'd like to close with in terms of, as we end the program, anything that we can do to help you?
Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions or if you have any problems with Google My Business, reach out to me, ben@steadydemand.com. On Twitter, my DMs are always open. So the social dude, it's right there at the bottom of the deck, or well, was. But feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any kind of questions, or if there's something that you need, or if you got this really slick idea for Google My Business, something like that. I mean, the fact is that we can put it in front of the right people if there's enough data behind it. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, just feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be a member of the Global Chamber. And if there's something that I can do to help anybody in the, that's a member, then yeah, feel free, always reach out.
The social dude, the Google dude, the cool dude. Thank you so much for sharing today. Really great information. And those of you around the world, I saw Ruby in Ghana, thank you for your greetings. And they work everywhere in the world. You yourself, are you based in Arizona, or is it the company in Austin and you're in Arizona?
Yeah, company's based.
And your mobile number in San Diego.
You got that right. So yeah, I mean, I've been bouncing all over the place, but used to live in San Diego, do live down here in Phoenix. So if you ever come out to one of the events that are in Phoenix, we will definitely be able to meet. And but yeah, based out of Austin. So we're all over the place. You can't nail me down.
Fantastic. In classic Google style. Ben Fischer of Steady Demand has been with us today. Thank you so much for your knowledge and experience. This will be up on our YouTube and blog in the next week or two. So if you'd like to see it again, it will be available, and then make it available for others that you feel could benefit from this information. Ben, have a great rest of your day. Thank you again for sharing today.
All right. Thanks, Doug. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
And thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for attending as well. Take care.